I'm Rob.
And I'm Matt.
And this is the Acer Windows Mixed Reality review by
Barefoot Gaming.
So I'm going to start by saying we are hardware agnostic here. We review hardware, we don't score it, as it were, because there's different hardware for every different kind of user, and we understand that. Doesn't matter if it's a gun controller, doesn't matter if it's a butt kicker, doesn't matter if it's a headset. So although we have the Vive, the Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality headsets here,
Yeah.
we're trying to give you our impression of what we've got.
Yeah, so the display is crisp. It has a nice feel to it. You can definitely look around. It's got a full 360 tracking with it, even though you don't have any cameras looking at you. So that part is really nice, because I know whether I was sitting down or standing up, it was tracking me a full 360. So there wasn't any problems there.
The headset does a good job of 360 tracking. The headset does
Yes.
a good job of 360 tracking. Speaking of the headset, I'm not a big fan of the blue plastic.
Right.
Now, again, the Vive Pro apparently has like a really dark blue. The Acer has a really bright blue, and it has a really plasticky look to it. And I get it sitting on your head. We're not paying this much money to have our headset blinged out.
I kind of want my headset blinged out.
Yeah, you can bedazzle your headset.
Yeah. Welcome to the 90s. Okay, anyway.
Today on Barefoot Gaming, your VR headset bedazzling. Fabulous!
Alright, good. Nice topic.
So perhaps moving on from there,
Yeah.
the controllers are slightly more reminiscent, I would say, of the Rift than the Vive.
Setting the controllers up is pretty simple. They go through Bluetooth, right? They have lights that circulate all the way around the one rim that you see here. You turn them on, and then you just have a pairing button. Once they're paired, you'll see it connected on your system. And then the cameras on the front of the headset basically track the controllers wherever they're at.
So they're pretty good at tracking, and I had played with this more prior to Matthew giving it a shot, and he found even with his hands set straight down, they did an okay job at tracking. Coming from the outside-in tracking that we have done, that we are most used to,
Yeah.
with the Vive and the Rift both using an outside source tracking your device, it's not one-to-one. It's not bang on. It's close. And the headset, again, as long as the lighting is good, the headset does a good job.
It seemed like in basically the mixed reality itself, in their interface, the controls weren't too bad. They could sit to your sides, but as soon as you were in a game, that's when you noticed about halfway through your hand would disappear, and you'd be looking around and it would just be floating next to your head somewhere else. So it doesn't track nearly as well as it could inside games as out of.
Yeah, and it does track it for a moment outside of. So if you're playing Space Pirate Trainer, for example, and you're reaching over your back to grab a shield, it knows you're doing that. So even though it's not seeing it, it's got the gyroscopes, it's got everything inside of it to kind of give it some idea, but whenever something stays away too long, it loses it. So if you're using this for gaming, one of the things you're going to want to keep in mind is you'll want to have your hands a little bit more in front of you. Having them sit at your side, we had a couple of games where your hands would drift off. And it's correctable. As soon as you look back down, it only takes a moment for it to pop back in. But if you're used to like one-to-one tracking in the other headsets, it's a little more frustrating. And again, I can only speak to the Acer. So the Samsung, I have heard entirely different things. I've heard that it's better at tracking. I've heard the goggle view. Matthew, looking through, how would you compare the visuals?
I mean, so the visuals, like I said, the pixel density and everything like that is really nice. The only complaint I have is you see a lot more of this blackout area around your eyes than you do on most of the other systems that we've used in the past.
Yeah, just to add to that, when you have a Rift or when you have a Vive, there is, like, if you're looking for it, you can see an edge.
Yeah.
And things like the Pimax are trying to knock that away. They're trying to get rid of it. However, here it just, especially coming from that between 90 and 95, depending which source you read, degree viewing distance, it's really noticeable. At least for me, it was really noticeable.
For me also, like, I like the way that the headset is done, where it sits on your forehead and then puts the weight on the back of your head yet too. Though after a while, it does feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like, you notice that there is this piece of plastic here, and as it sits on your nose, I actually noticed that it wanted to constantly pull down on the top of my, basically the top of my nose, the bridge of it, and it basically would cut me off from breathing.
And we enjoy breathing.
Yes.
At Barefoot Gaming.
Breathing is nice.
So the way it sits, which I thought was a really neat idea right off the bat, is it uses more of your forehead, which is what the PSVR uses. The tightness happens with a ratchet around the back to snug up. So the first time I snapped it on, I was like, it's actually kind of neat. It distributes your weight totally different, so that's not a bad thing. It has the ability to flip up.
Which is amazing. I don't know why any other place hasn't really done that much of it yet. Especially with the Vive Pro coming out, I assume they would have made it so you could flip it up. But nonetheless, anyway.
This one you can flip it up, so that's one bonus. If you want to work on your desktop for a little bit, flip it up, you can see, instead of using any pass-through cameras.
That is actually one really nice feature. There's a sensor that's in between your eyes on the headset itself. So if you flip it up, it notices that you're no longer looking inside the camera, so it'll give you your desktop display then. And as soon as you pull down the headset again, it knows it, so it disables your keyboard and mouse, and it activates everything on the controls here.
Yeah. Now, this is also not priced like the other guys we're competing it against, or we're comparing it against. So we have to be fair in that. US, this thing goes between, anywhere between $250 and $399, and that's a pretty big range. But we were looking around at the different sources, and that's about what they're going for. You see it on sale sometimes at Amazon. It's like $246 or something. Regular price $399, depending when you pick it up. So it is cheaper than some of the other sets, but it has to be, because it's giving you less of quality. That's just what it boils down to.
I mean, you're not getting the cameras with it, right? So those are a few $100 right there. You're not getting,
The length of the cable is another issue I have. So it's designed to track, like you could track a rather large space. And technically, if you had a laptop that'll handle VR, you could strap that to your back and head out into the field. Really, as long as you have proper light. You have a problem with strapping a laptop to your back?
No, I never thought of it.
And you could just wander. You could just take off. And I've actually heard of someone on Reddit who was experimenting with just seeing how large of a play space. And you can have a big play space that way. But that being the case, this is also very dependent on lighting. So you're not going to do that at dusk. You're not going to do that in the dark. You want something that'll actually have visible contrast. Because as quality as the cameras are, they can only do so much. So if you are going to extend the cables, you need to get an active HDMI, an active USB cable. It's very doable. I picked up a couple on Amazon for relatively cheap, and then you can go as long as you want. Zip tie them up, tape them together, whatever. But knowing out of the box that you can't do the same amount of space that you can in a Vive or a Rift. Assuming the back of your computer is to your wall. If you spin it around and have it to the front, great. Another thing that I was going to mention is I can't just plug it into my Barefoot box. For whatever reason, it doesn't like it. And I've heard some people have had success. I didn't. Switching between headsets was also problematic, but I mean, not everyone is in the situation where they have multiple headsets that they're pulling back and forth to.
Most people have 3 of them that they
I do this for you.
Yes.
And that's it. I think we've touched on everything here. The foam thing around the face, maybe we should mention how comfortable the actual gasket is on your face.
So I didn't really find it that comfortable. It felt like it was mostly just a thin layer of foam with plastic basically sitting towards my face. And like I said, the bridge of my nose there, it was the most uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, and it didn't squeeze the bridge. I mean, everybody has a different shaped nose, right? It didn't squeeze the bridge of my nose, but I found the foam to be kind of cheaper, and I kept grabbing my hair for whatever reason.
That's back piece. Like, even if you loosen it and stuff like that, I was constantly getting my hair torn out, and then you're in game not happy.
Acer,
Yes.
Mixed Reality, Windows Mixed Reality review by Barefoot Gaming. Thank you again for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Love hearing from you. Subscribe, like, comment, yada. You know the drill. Talk to you later. See ya.
See ya.